here with John Green, author, YouTube celebrity, co-founder of Vidcon, philanthropist, soccer mogul, and most importantly, my history teacher. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me today out of your very extremely busy day, I would imagine.
Oh, well, thank you. This is really fun. I am a longtime fan of yours, and you have really helped us understand what Crash Course could be, so it's really fun to talk to you.
Thanks. So that's a really long list of accomplishments, and your brother Hank has a similar list, being a musician and a chemist, among other things. What do you think it was that made it possible for both you and your brother to become such exceptional people?
Well, I think a lot of it is luck, to be honest with you. I mean, we were born into, a very supportive family, and I think our parents always encouraged our interests, and then that was very lucky for me. It was, but I also think, we were very lucky to hit upon YouTube at the right time, and that has, dramatically changed the course of our careers. So I look back at my life and I see a few times when I was able to take advantage of an opportunity that I might not have gotten, and that changed my professional life. The main thing for me is at this point in my career, is to try to make sure that as many people as possible have as many of those opportunities as possible, because I know that I had a lot growing up, and I want more people to have more opportunities like that.
I have gotten several opportunities from my channel as well, but the big thing that actually started my YouTube channel was Vidcon, when I started going to Vidcon, I started my channel, so I feel like a YouTuber then, and I would have never been able to meet you or interview you or anything if I hadn't started that YouTube channel. Yeah,
well, I remember that it was just luck, I guess, that we called on you, or maybe it was because you had that Everything is Dead Brain Scoop shirt. And then your comment at this EDU panel at VidCon, when was that, 2 years ago?
Yes, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. You've grown up so fast, and I have not changed at all. 2 years ago, it moved everyone on the panel to tears, because it was the first time for a lot of us, I think, including me, that we'd met someone who, in real life, who felt like their life was being changed by educational content and online video, and so that was an important moment for us too. But I'm glad that I'm glad that you also became a YouTuber out of it.
Yes, I'm glad that I became a YouTuber as well. So many opportunities that I would have missed if I hadn't become a YouTuber. So yeah, like I said, I still see you as mostly my history teacher, but I was wondering how you primarily see yourself.
That's a good question. I guess the thing that I'm most passionate about right now is Crash Course. Not just the videos, but also, how can we get, better free materials available to teachers, lesson plans, workbooks, and maybe even eventually textbooks, so that parents and schools don't have to pay for that stuff anymore, because I don't really think they should have to pay for it. I think that it should be free. We just need to figure out how to kind of make that work financially.
Yes, Crash Course has definitely helped me and some of my friends as well on learning stuff.
Yeah, so I guess that's the number one thing that I get excited about. And then I want to make good books and cool movies too. So, but yeah, my life, I think, mostly is going to be in online video and books. Those are the worlds that I feel comfortable in, and I feel like I know how to do stuff in.
Yeah. So, speaking of books, I'm starting to write my first book, and
awesome.
I recently got to ask Timothy Zahn a few questions about writing, which was really cool. I wanted to ask if you are more of an outliner when you're writing, or if you just sit down and write.
I just sit down and write. I have lots of friends who are outliners, and most of the best novelists I know are outliners, but I don't know how to do that. So I just kind of sit down and write, and then my first draft, I guess, becomes an outline, because I end up deleting almost all of my first draft after I finish it, and then, but hopefully, I've found little pieces and the characters and stuff that I can build upon.
Yeah, when I write short stories, I sit down and write, but for the big book, I'm trying to outline it.
Yeah, it can be hard to... short stories are... the problem with a novel or with a big book for me at least, is that every time you change something, 80 pages in, it changes a bunch of other things that you did, 65 pages ago, and a bunch of things that you're going to have to do in 65 pages. So I definitely understand outlining. One of my friends once compared it to writing a novel to parallel parking an 18-wheeler, like a semi-truck, when you have never driven one and have no idea how the gears work. And that is kind of how I feel every time I write a book. I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah. I've read I've read like the prologue and a little bit of Paper Towns, and it's really good.
Thank you.
No problem.
How old are you?
10.
Yeah, no hurry on the rest of it.
So, yeah. So, 2 years ago, I was at the EDU panel where I got to tell you that you were one of my favorite teachers, like you mentioned earlier. And it made you tear up a little bit. I honestly thought it was a really big deal at the time, but now that I followed you a lot more on social media, I think that you do it a lot.
Because I cry so much?
And it wasn't such a unique thing. Do you think having that empathy and having such strong feelings make you a better writer, teacher, or dad?
That's a good question. I mean, I hope it makes me a better dad. Like, I think the biggest challenge with being a parent is patience. Is being able to listen. And to be patient and to kind of take the time. Like people always talk about quality time with their kids, but the truth is like there's a lot of value in quantity time, in just being there and being present, and that can be challenging in many ways for a parent. But I think empathy is one of the keys to writing. You obviously have to know how to use words, and you have to think about how language works in people's minds when they read and everything. But you also have to be able to feel with them and for them. And certainly I think that empathy is for me at least, like it's the most important part about being a person. Like it's the biggest privilege of being a person, but also the biggest responsibility. So. Yeah, I do cry a lot, but I also feel happy a lot. Like I don't just feel people's pain. Actually, I'm not sure that that's true, to be honest with you. That's an interesting question.
Yeah. So since we were talking about the empathy of being a dad, as a dad, what do you think is the most important thing to teach your kids for them to be successful?
Gosh, that's a good question. These are all really big, good questions. I don't know, man. I don't know. Because it's so hard to know in the middle of being a dad if you're being a good dad, to be honest. And from my perspective, like, it's really hard to know. I think the most important thing is to love your kids, help them to know that you make them feel safe. To know that they are loved, to know that they are okay, because like the world is big and confusing, and you are small in it but getting larger, and that can be a tough experience, especially with peers. And so I think if you can create that kind of like love and stability in a kid's life, that means a lot to them. And then I guess the other thing that I would say is to make them work, like, or to encourage their work, to encourage their passions, so that they lead, hopefully, are encouraged to lead lives of engagement and thoughtfulness and making projects. I mean, one of the cool things that I love about your videos is watching, you and your dad make stuff together. It's really, and I think about that. When I think about how to try to be a good parent.
Yeah, I don't know where I would be if my dad hadn't encouraged me to start a YouTube channel. I wouldn't have started it. I wouldn't have been here now. I would have gone over to Vidcon, but I wouldn't have ever made videos.
Yeah, but also like other you seem to have a very kind of like I don't know for sure. I don't know your life, obviously. I just know your videos, but like you seem to have a very project-based education and a very project-based life where you get to sort of approach problems and questions of history or science or math from kind of some non-traditional perspectives and from some sort of where you just get to kind of try to be creative around those problems or around those questions, and I think that's really cool. So that's something I think about with Henry.
Yeah, that's a way that I like to work, is I like to be creative around problems, and I really like to find the loopholes in problems. That's like my favorite thing. It's like, let's get a loophole in there,
Right.
then I don't have to do as much work now.
Well, I mean, that's essentially what engineering is, right? Like the whole history of engineering and industrial design and everything is just people trying to find loopholes so that things are easier and they're less work. Computer science is essentially, software engineers trying to find loopholes in code so that they can make things more efficient.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing, is trying to make everything more efficient and less hard to do.
That's awesome.
Yes. So, as a history buff, if you had a magical device that allowed you to witness one historical event, so you knew for sure what happened, what would it be and why?
Wow, that's a big, great question. First off, is it possible for us to establish some guidelines together right now?
Yeah.
Can I take antibiotics with me on this trip?
Hush. Well, you're going to be looking at it, so you're not going to be there, luckily.
Oh, okay. So I don't have to worry about disease.
No, you don't have to worry
I don't have to worry about the poverty of the whole human species until 700 years ago. I don't have to worry about any of that.
No, you can just see.
I just get to watch what happened. Yes. Oh, that makes it both easier and harder. All right. I mean, there's a lot of good ones, right? A lot of really good ones. The conversations around a big moment in Islamic history where after the death of the Prophet, they're trying to figure out how to continue the political structure of the Islamic community and who was going to be the first caliph. Was it going to be Ali or Abu Bakr? And they both camps sort of cited alternate histories or alternate narratives to justify their position. I would like to know what I would like to know what actually happened there. Like which narrative was more correct. I mean, one of the challenges of this is that a lot of times, there are two sort of paradoxical stories in history are both true in a way, right? Like they can both be both true within your own narrative. I was thinking about that this morning because, within my narrative, industrial capitalism has led to tremendous steps forward for the human species, but for a lot of other from billions of people's narratives, that's simply just not true, right? And so I'm coming from it at a particular perspective. I'm sorry that I'm not answering your question, but I'm going to keep at it. I think I'm going to go with this is hard.
I gotta think about it.
What do you have?
Yeah, there's two things that I really want to witness. One, I would probably want to go to an ancient Greek festival, probably because I'm very biased to ancient Greek things. I love them a lot. But it's also would be really cool to see if the myths that we have now that are called ancient Greek myths are really what they worshipped at the time. Yeah, right,
so you could see the extent to which did they really believe in these gods, or was it sort of a mythical structure even to them, right?
Yeah. Or I would probably go to, in the Persian War, there was this one Greek guy who made this one decision that changed the entire course of humanity forever. I would probably go to that. I would either go there or to the Greek festival to see what that decision, what that person had that would make them change the course of history to decide to fight the Persians. And that changed the course of history, that changed and everything would have changed if that one person didn't switch to the other side. I would want to witness that and see that happen. Right.
Those are both very good. I'm gonna go with that. I would like to see Jerusalem in in 33 CE or whatever, and witness the what happened around the arrest and crucifixion of Jesus and the community of disciples in the sort of, can I hang around for like 5 years? Or do I just get like 1 day? We have a lot to establish in this hypothetical. If I could hang around for 5 years, that's what I would do. If I could only hang around for 1 day, I might spend I might spend 1 day with Mansa Musa in Mali. If I only had 1 day, but this is a great question. We could let's just cancel VidCon and talk about this stuff all day.
Yes, we should just talk about everything to be able to be like, which place should we go and why and how long we're going to do this place.
And then we should have somebody invent the machine where I can't get any of the diseases of the ancient world. I love your idea that I'm just in a bubble and I just get to watch and none of their microbes can touch me.
Yes.
As you can tell, I'm very anxious about the thought of, I never want to go back in time because they were getting sick with all kinds of horrible things. Like, I don't want to get smallpox. We worked so hard to eliminate it.
So people always think that something is fundamentally going to change education. Do you think education is really changing for kids like me with YouTube and the internet? Or do you think it's really going to stay the same with pretty much with new tools?
I think that's a big question. I think that it will. I mean, look, it's obviously changing for kids like you who have non-traditional schooling experiences. I think for kids with traditional schooling experiences, I think the fundamental fact of, school starts at 8 and ends at 4, and we study these subjects. And I don't think that that's going away anytime soon. It's deeply, deeply entrenched in the way that we imagine education. Even the physical buildings are built around that idea. So I don't think that's going to go away, at least in elementary and secondary education in the next 30 or 40 years. I might be wrong. I'm often wrong when I try to predict the future, by the way, but I think that that's going to stay. So I think it will be a matter of finding new tools and then hopefully dramatically increasing access to good tools for schools, regardless of whether they're in rich communities. That to me is the real, that's the big challenge.
Yeah, I honestly think as well that education should be free and people should be able to learn no matter who they are.
Yeah, and I think that should be true in college too, by the way. I don't think that it should stop being true in high school. In fact, there's quite a lot of evidence that free college is good for the social order and ultimately good for the economy. Like countries that have free college or very inexpensive college do not tend to benefit because they have a better educated population that finds better jobs, that finds more loopholes and becomes more innovative and builds more efficiencies. And so I completely agree with you. And also, if you don't have free education and free access to education, the other thing that you lose is that you lose social mobility. You lose the ability of people to emerge from poverty because they're never given a chance to have the educational tools that they need in order to get different kinds of jobs or become, creators themselves. So I think, that's the biggest challenge that we face, maybe as a species.
Yeah. So we are really privileged to live the life we live here, and a lot of people don't realize it. You've traveled to places where that isn't the case. Can you share some of that experience and why it's so important to give back and help those people?
Yeah, I think it's not just important selflessly. I think it's also important because we all benefit from a world. We would all benefit from a world without poverty. We would all benefit from a world where wealth was better distributed and people didn't die of diarrheal illnesses and they didn't get malaria and they didn't die of preventable pneumonia. The world would be better for all of us because not just because kids don't deserve to die, and people don't. There's nothing more horrible than the thought of losing one's child, but also because we could have more innovators, we could have more people finding loopholes, we could have, and we would have more people who can kind of create the tools that we can use to deal with the environmental impacts of industrialization, to deal with disease and other problems and the shrinking biodiversity, all of this stuff. Like these are big problems, and it seems to me that a healthy and educated and productive population of humans is the best way that we have to solve them, as long as we're going to be part of the planet's ecosystem. So, yeah, I mean, so I have traveled to the developing world. I look forward to traveling a lot more. I mean, mostly, I go there to listen. I go there to try to listen to people, to understand their concerns. I think one of the biggest problems that we've had in the world of philanthropy, dealing with global poverty and disease, is that a lot of times we go to poor countries or to poor communities and we say, here is the solution. And we know it's the solution because it worked in the United States or because it worked in Europe. And then we try to impose a solution that just doesn't work for that community. And so I think the key is listening, asking people, what do you need? Asking people like, what are your biggest challenges? What are your biggest joys? What do you like about your work, and what do you find, meaningful about your work, and what do you really dislike about it? Asking those kinds of questions, how do you deal with health problems? How do you deal with these challenges? And then building, and then using that knowledge and then investing in those people and those communities so that they can build solutions that work for their communities. I think that's the key. So when I travel, I just try to listen.
That just sounds really, really cool and nice.
It's really fun too. I mean, it's awesome to meet people who have very different lives from yours. Just because it's I don't know. I mean, you have all of these preconceptions about what life looks like, and then of course, like when you really meet people, like they have their lives just like anybody else's, contain multitudes and are very complex and individual. And a lot of times, I think we sort of imagine the poor world monolithically.
Yeah, it just sounds really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm so lucky to be able to do that. Yeah.
So you've done so much over the past years, like traveling to those places and writing books and making Crash Course. What's next? What new thing are you planning to try out?
That's a good question. I feel a little tired right now. The movie Paper Towns, as we're filming this, just came out today, and I've been traveling a lot for that for the last month and a half, and I've missed making Crash Course. I've missed being able to spend the kind of time on Blog Brothers videos that I want to make. So I want to write a book. At least a draft of a book this year. That's my goal in the rest of the year. And then I want to go back to making Crash Course. I want to go back to helping people make Crash Course, I guess, because I know that I'm not going to be the right host for everything, and I know that I'm not going to be the voice of the channel moving forward, or certainly not the only voice, but I do really care about it, and I want to be involved in it.
Like at the beginning, you're a big YouTube celebrity and influencer. As such, do you feel at all responsible for the huge amount of jump cuts in the world?
I mean, I don't. The jump cut was popularized by Zay Frank, and then I just stole it. So everyone who's stolen it since, it's all the whole pyramid leads back to Zay Frank. So whether you like jump cuts or hate them, it all goes back to Zay. I mean, we use jump cuts in Crash Course because it's cheap, to be honest. Like, it's way more expensive to have a second camera, and then also I think if you're just reading from a teleprompter and it's kind of obvious and dry. But yeah, I do. I'm sure I share responsibility for the number of jump cuts in the world. I think now actually creators are starting to use like really cool tools that aren't jump cuts, and I'm a little bit jealous of them. But I'm so old now. I'm so old. I'm going to be a jump cutter for the rest of my life.
So much jump cuts.
So much.
It's hard although it is hard to have a video without many jump cuts because you have to cut between all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I see people doing now that's really cool is they just talk to the camera, but somehow like they're able to use the multi-trackness of Premiere and Final Cut to to not really move, but they cut out breaths and they cut out ums, and like, so there are cuts, but it somehow feels a little smoother than the like doom 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 doom. And we started that. I mean, so I think, well, Zay started it, but I think the reason it was used in the beginning of YouTube is because it made it visually interesting, because all YouTube was a head, like a person's head staring at a camera. And if the person's head staring at the camera never moves, nothing visual ever happens. Like the mouth moves a little bit, but that's it. And so if you just start like moving the head around, then like the eyes get distracted, and it makes it easier, I think, for the ears to listen. But now, of course, we have way better tools for making interesting visuals, like Thought Cafe, who designed your t-shirt, and they do all the amazing animations. We're the exception. They do all the amazing animations on Crash Course. Like, they can make things that are so visually beautiful and interesting and enhance the experience of listening to what someone's talking about when they're making a Crash Course video. And so I think maybe we are moving away from a jump cut world, but I'll be sad. I'll miss it.
So I want to say thanks for taking a few minutes, and to tell you that I don't think many people have done more to decrease world suck. I hope you keep it up and we stay friends.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so awesome. This is such a great interview. You're so great at interviewing. Your questions were too good. I wasn't ready. I'm in like 3 weeks. I'm gonna be in like waking up or like hanging out with Henry or something, and I'll finally have a good answer for you about the historical moment I would want to witness. Yeah. Oh, Columbus's arrival in America? Oh, that would have been interesting. Yeah. Pizarro? What really happened? I mean, I'm gonna make a list, yes, okay, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I've had several ideas that I wanted to witness. Like, at first I wanted to witness ancient Greece, but then I'm like, that's way too long to witness. You'd be dead by the time
it was over. Yes. Ancient Greece lasted forever.
I know ancient Greece was forever, and then I wanted to witness a bunch of festivals. I wanted to witness building the pyramids. I would want to witness
the pyramids.
Yes.
How they made Stonehenge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would be actually a really good one. I didn't think about that.
It's like an engineering problem.
Yes.
Or like the emergence of calculus in the Arab world. That would have been really cool to see, because I think if I could watch people figuring calculus out, I might be able to understand calculus better. So. No hurry on calculus, by the way.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Presley. It's so fun. Thank you so much.
The interview. I just said thank you very much for coming to the internet.
Well, I mean, thanks for that too. You're welcome for that too. You're welcome for both.